heavy with intensity. Trainees moved in tight formations, their boots hitting the ground in synchronized thuds, the sound echoing through the concrete corridors. Among them walked Lieutenant Arya Connors, one of the toughest female operators the program had ever seen, sharp-eyed, disciplined, fearless. Her uniform sleeves were rolled just above her elbows, sweat already beginning to form from the warm coastal wind sweeping across the training field. Today was supposed to be a standard day of scenario-based drills, but the instructors had planned something far more unpredictable. Nearby, the seasoned Navy SEAL Chief Ethan Ward watched from the shadows of the observation deck. His expression was unreadable, but every subtle movement betrayed that he was evaluating, measuring, calculating. Ethan was a legend within the teams, known not just for his combat experience, but for his ability to read danger before it even happened. Trainees whispered stories about him. How he once neutralized 4 attackers in a hallway without a weapon, how he could disarm someone before they even realized he had moved. But to Ethan, these weren't stories, it was survival, discipline, and instinct sharpened through years of real-world missions. The whistle blew sharply across the yard, calling the trainees to their next drill, close-quarter hostage extraction. Arya stepped forward with her team, tightening her gloves, rolling her neck until it cracked slightly. No one in the group knew the instructors had added a twist to today's scenario. 2 aggressors, both advanced trainees from another unit, had been instructed to intensify the realism. They were given dull training blades, safe enough not to cause severe injury but capable of tearing fabric or leaving a sting if contact was made. Their secret objective was to test composure under sudden stress. Ethan knew, but he didn't intervene. This was how they learned. Arya moved into the training room, a dimly lit space filled with fake walls, overturned crates, and narrow hallways built to simulate a compromised industrial complex. The moment she entered, she felt the tension. Sound seemed heavier inside, her breathing slowed as she scanned her surroundings, every muscle primed. The 2 aggressors studied her from the shadows. They exchanged a quick nod, the signal that the trick would begin the moment she turned the corner. Arya, unaware of their plan, continued her sweep. She checked blind spots, adjusted her stance, and pressed forward with quiet confidence. As she stepped past the rusted metal doorframe, the first aggressor lunged. Arya barely had a second to react. A blur of motion cut through the air, and she felt the dull blade slice cleanly through the fabric of her sleeve. Her uniform tore with a sharp rip, exposing her arm for a split second before she instinctively pulled back. But before she could fully recover, the second aggressor appeared from behind and grabbed her shoulder, yanking her off balance and driving her forward. A gasp escaped her lips, not from pain, but from the shock of the sudden ambush. She twisted hard, dropping her weight, trying to break free from the hold, but the aggressors pressed their advantage with precision. Another swipe of the training knife came close, grazing the loose threads of her torn sleeve, the fabric fluttering. From the observation deck, Ethan's eyes narrowed. He could see the scenario escalating too quickly. The aggressors weren't breaking rules, but they were pushing the limits. Arya was skilled, but the surprise, the pressure, and the sudden uniform cut had thrown her momentarily off rhythm. The aggressors circled her like wolves sensing weakness. One motioned with the blade again, tapping the tip lightly against the torn edge, smirking as if he had already won. The other shifted behind her, blocking her exit. Arya steadied her breath, lowering her stance, trying to regain control of the situation. Her heart hammered, but her training screamed at her to adapt, to recover, to fight back. Then came the moment that changed everything. The aggressor in front feinted left but suddenly charged forward, raising the training knife for another dramatic slash across her uniform. But as he stepped in, Arya slipped, not due to panic, but due to the slick concrete floor beneath her boot. The fall wasn't big, but it exposed her posture, placing her at a tactical disadvantage. The aggressor closed in fast, blade forward. That was the instant Ethan moved. 1 second he was on the observation deck, the next, he was dropping down the metal steps with speed that made even the instructors freeze. His boots barely made a sound as he crossed the training yard, eyes locked on the unfolding danger. He pushed through the door with a thundering force that startled everyone inside. Before any of the trainees noticed his arrival, Ethan was already in the middle of the room. Arya's attacker never saw him coming. With a single fluid motion, Ethan intercepted the aggressor's wrist before the knife could even complete its arc. The move was so fast that the air cracked with the sound of it. Ethan's grip tightened, twisting the attacker's arm in a controlled spiral that forced the knife downward. A sharp pop echoed, a sound of pressure, not injury, as the aggressor's muscles instantly gave out. The knife flew from his hand, clattering harmlessly across the floor. The second aggressor hesitated, blade still raised. Arya scrambled back, stunned, watching as Ethan shifted his stance. The entire room felt like it stopped breathing. Ethan's eyes locked on the second trainee, not with anger, but with calm, deadly accuracy. The aggressor lunged. Ethan sidestepped with such precise timing that the attacker seemed to move in slow motion. Ethan caught his elbow mid-strike, guiding the momentum past him, pivoting, and driving the trainee downward with controlled force. The knife slipped from the trainee's fingers before he hit the ground. Ethan pinned him with a single knee, applying just enough pressure to immobilize him without harm. Silence swallowed the room. Arya exhaled shakily, her torn sleeve hanging loosely from her arm, staring at Ethan with stunned disbelief. The aggressors were equally silent, not from fear but from sheer awe. They knew Ethan was good. They had heard the stories. But witnessing it in person was something else entirely. Ethan stood slowly, his movements measured, as if nothing unusual had happened. He picked up the dropped training knives, one in each hand. He turned them over, examining the dull edges, then looked at both aggressors. "Scenario intensity is good," he said calmly. "But you pushed beyond control. Precision matters. Discipline matters. And you never escalate without being prepared for consequences." His voice wasn't loud, but each word carried weight. The aggressors nodded deeply, their pride tempered. Ethan finally turned to Arya. "You held your ground," he said. "You lost tempo, but you didn't break. Recovering under pressure is what separates a trainee from an operator." Arya swallowed, standing tall despite the adrenaline still rushing through her. "I should have anticipated the second attacker." "You did fine," Ethan replied. "But remember, your uniform tearing isn't the problem. Losing focus is." Her gaze drifted to the shredded edge of her sleeve. The rip was clean, the fabric sliced perfectly. It wasn't the damage that bothered her, it was the reminder that 1 second of hesitation could mean vulnerability. But instead of discouragement, a spark ignited in her. She wanted to master this. She wanted to be better. Ethan saw that spark and nodded, as if reading her thoughts. "Reset the room," he ordered the instructors. "We're running the drill again. She leads." The aggressors looked up sharply. Again, after what just happened. But Ethan wasn't giving them a choice. Arya returned to position, heart pounding yet sharper than before. The room was reset. The shadows seemed even heavier. But this time, she didn't wait for danger, she hunted it. She advanced silently, shoulders low, movements precise. When the first aggressor lunged again, she was ready. She pivoted, parried the blade, and countered with a controlled shoulder strike that sent him stumbling. The second trainee tried to flank her, but she rotated faster, anticipating him perfectly, knocking the knife from his grip with a swift arm deflection. Ethan watched with a faint smirk. This was what he wanted. Not perfection, but transformation. By the time the drill ended, Arya stood breathing hard but victorious. Her torn sleeve was a symbol, no longer of vulnerability, but of growth. The aggressors respected her even more now, their earlier confidence replaced by admiration. When the session was over and the sun began to dip, turning the compound gold, Arya approached Ethan with her usual composed demeanor, though her heart was still racing. "Thank you," she said simply. Ethan shook his head. "Don't thank me. You fought your way through it. I just stepped in when control shifted. But you saved the scenario." "I didn't save the scenario," he corrected quietly. "I saved the lesson." For a moment, they both stood in silence, the warm wind brushing past them. Beyond the training yard, the ocean waves crashed softly, a reminder of the unforgiving world beyond the compound. Arya looked at her torn sleeve one last time. She didn't see damage anymore. She saw challenge, experience, and pride stitched into every ripped thread. And she knew one thing with absolute certainty: the world outside would never catch her off guard again. Because she had learned, in one unforgettable moment, exactly why Ethan Ward, the calm, silent, watchful SEAL, was feared on the field.